2015 inductees of the Baseball Hall of Fame have been announced. Ron Chimelis, you are among that select group of Baseball Writers Association of America, who get to vote. Let's look at the list, get some of your reaction. As expected, former Red Sox pitching great Pedro Martinez gets in his first year of eligibility. Nobody's surprised, huh?
Nobody should be. I'm surprised. He got 91% of the vote. I'd like to know what the other 9% are looking for. When you watch Pedro, you knew you were watching greatness, and that counts. There's an intangible plus, obviously, in the numbers, too.
I want to talk more about Pedro, but let me pick up on what you said about what are the other 9% to it. Aren't there some guys, I mean, everybody in the Writers Association has their reason for what they do. Aren't there some guys that just say, unless you're fantastic, I just don't like to give a first-year guy a vote?
There are those guys, and I've never agreed with that. If you're a Hall of Famer, then why wait? I think there are some people you have to think about for a little while. I'm in that position myself with a couple of guys. Not a guy like Pedro, though. There are people that just won't vote for first-timers, but I don't agree with it.
I got to tell you a couple of remarks I heard from baseball fans I know. They said, I cannot wait for induction day and Pedro's speech.
Well, you know what's so great about this? The Hall of Fame vote has become a negative thing in baseball with the steroids. It should be a day of celebration, and I think it's going to be this year with Pedro, Smoltz, Randy Johnson, even Biggio. These are guys that bring a smile to people's faces, especially Pedro. I think the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown desperately needs that. Let's look at who's getting in, not who didn't.
Okay, let's talk about Randy Johnson, the big unit, pitched for Arizona, the Yankees. I remember seeing him once, and I thought, what must it be like to be in the hitter's box at home plate and see him coming at you? What was he, 6'5", 6'6"?
6'10".
6'10"? Huge guy.
Yeah, and early in his career, he was wild as a hawk, and it must have been scary because he threw almost 100 miles an hour. Once he found the strike zone, he was almost unhittable. And early in his career, there was a question of whether he could train that big body to do that. But he honed his game, and he became a 300-game winner, maybe the last one we'll ever see. He became a pitcher as well as a thrower, and obviously very deserving.
And again, another first-year guy that I know you were cheering for.
Well, yeah, I voted for him, and 97% of the vote. He's the 8th highest vote getter in history. So it didn't take a lot of convincing for Randy.
John Smoltz, I know in a column you wrote back before the holidays about getting ready to send your vote in, you said he, along with Martinez and Randy Johnson, is a no-brainer.
Yeah, not to me. I mean, he was great from start to finish. He was a great closer in addition to being a great star. I always looked at him as a starting pitcher. I still do, but he was very good in both capacities, more than very good, eminently deserving.
I had actually forgotten one of his last stops in baseball was with the Red Sox briefly.
That didn't get him into the Hall of Fame, that stop. But he was old, and he was a class guy. He's a great guy to have around. It was toward the end of his career, and he wasn't here for long. But it's kind of cool to say he did pitch for the Boston Red Sox.
There are 4 guys getting in this year. That alone is rare. It's almost always three that get enough votes. What do you make of just the fact, we'll talk about the 4th person, Craig Biggio, in a minute. What do you make of the fact that 4 made it this year?
Well, I think there were 4 deserving people. I think the 3 newcomers were just about no-brainers, including Smoltz, who got about 82% of the vote. So you start with them. And Biggio missed by 2 votes last year. And I remember thinking, you can't say your vote doesn't count in this particular election. He missed by 2 votes. That must have been agonizing for the guy. And I thought he'd make it this year. I thought Mike Piazza had a shot, and he's coming close. I think he's going to make it. But 4 is a pretty healthy class, and I think they were the right choices.
Craig Biggio, a hitter, but not a home run hitter. And to some people, that takes him down a little bit. Well, this was his 3rd year of eligibility, I think.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, the first year he came close. Last year he came agonizingly close. But, you know, some of us think that it should be more than home runs, especially people, if you're going to criticize steroid guys for hitting all those home runs that they shouldn't have, you can't ignore the people that do all the other things well. Biggio hit a few homers, but that wasn't his game. He had 3,000 hits. He was a star on the same team for 20 years. That's good enough for me. I mean, he was an all-around player, and just because he wasn't a slugger doesn't mean he's out of the Hall of Fame.
There were rumors going around the internet last couple of days based on some writers who, like yourself, had basically written about who you were voting for, you were supporting. And some folks said there might be as many as 5 this year. The 4 guys we've already talked about, and Mike Piazza, who you just mentioned, did not make it in again. But what about him? What's his possibility?
Well, I think he's going to make it, and I think he's probably going to make it next year. And I'll use myself as an example. There have been suspicions and rumors about Piazza and performance-enhancing drugs, but that's all they've been. He's never been on a list, Mitchell report, anything like that. And as the years have passed, and I believe this is his 3rd year on the ballot, maybe his 4th, I started to think to myself, I can't keep him off just because somebody has a whisper. And I think a lot of writers are starting to look at it that way. So he came very close this year, and I think either next year or the year after, we're going to see. He's a Hall of Fame player if you look at his career.
I know every one of you in the Baseball Writers Association has your criteria, and I know you talk a lot about length of time someone plays, consistency. A lot of folks throw in character, and I think sometimes some sports writers throw in, was this guy, a guy who talked up the game, who talked to the media, and
well, that shouldn't count. I work hard. Jeff Kent was on the ballot. I voted for him. I never dealt with him. I heard it was very difficult to deal with him, so I could be objective. Really, you can't start keeping guys out because you don't like them. That should not be a criterion. But I can't honestly say that doesn't happen.
Curt Schilling is on the ballot again, did not make it again. In some ways, it seems to me, in baseball legend and lore, just the bloody sock alone of 2004 is the kind of storied stuff that gets you into the Hall of Fame. But what do you say?
He's a very interesting candidate. I haven't voted for him yet, but I came closer this year. I think he looks better as time goes on. He did add to the game. He was clean, tremendous clutch performer, postseason record, almost second to none. Those things should count. He got 40% of the vote, and you need 75%. He's got a long way to go. But he did pick up some traction this year. Those 4 guys are going to be off the ballot next year that got in this year. He's got an outside chance, but I do think a lot of people are taking a longer look at Schilling and liking what they see. His victory total isn't especially high, 216, but Pedro had 219, so you can't hold that against Schilling.
Schilling's one of the guys that I wonder about in terms of that shouldn't be in their likability thing. He could be kind of abrasive, kind of difficult, kind of put you off a little.
But I honestly don't think the writers that I've spoken to, and I speak to many, especially in Boston, who dealt with them day by day, I can honestly say that wasn't a factor. It wasn't a factor with Jim Rice. A lot of people think that's why it took him so long. I never got that feeling. There are other questions. I don't think Schilling's candidacy is a knockdown, no question candidacy. I think it's a good candidacy. And with people like that, it sometimes takes time. He might have been abrasive, but he wasn't a complete turnoff either. So I don't think that's the factor.
What about Pete Rose? Is he ever, do you think, going to make it? It would now be, I guess, the Veterans Committee.
No, it would now be the commissioner, because the new commissioner, and we don't know because there's a new commissioner now, he has to take him off the banned list. And the last commissioner wouldn't do that. We don't know if the new fellow is going to do that or not. Once he does that, if he does that, and that's a big if, then the Veterans Committee takes a look at Rose. And that'd be very interesting. I think if he ever got on anybody's ballot, I think he'd make it. But right now, he's not eligible.
Let's switch real quickly. Got a little bit less than a minute left. NFL Patriots versus Baltimore Ravens this Saturday. Ravens and Pats have met 3 times in playoffs. Ravens have won twice. The word Ravens scares Patriot fans. What do you think?
It scares me because they win on the road. They are fearless about coming into Foxborough, and that's bad for the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to win the game, but I have every reason to think that this is going to be a much more difficult matchup than maybe playing Pittsburgh would have been, because the Ravens know how to do it. And for the Patriots, they're going to have to execute. I think they're going to have to play with a lead, and that's going to be a challenge against the Baltimore defense.
Matchup of the quarterbacks. Our guy, Tom Brady, versus their guy, Joe Flacco.
Well, our guy's better, but their guy wins games in the playoffs. Their coach said Flacco's the best quarterback in football. That got a lot of play, that comment. He's pumping up his guy. Brady's going to have to be Brady in this game. And if he is, the Patriots will win, because I don't think Flacco's going to lose the game. I think Brady's going to have to win it.
Ron Chimelis, always a pleasure to have you in, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.